The next item is item number 5, application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, docket number 15-6130, block 145, lot 7501, 503 Fulton Street. The Offerman Building, an individual landmark, a Romanesque revival-style commercial building built between 1890 and 1893, with later alterations by Morris Lapidus in 1947. This is an application to construct a rooftop addition and bulkheads and install an entrance marquee at the Duffield Street entrance.
Great designation. We did it, I don't know, 2005, something like that. Let's see, yeah, 2005. Good, good one.
Morning, Commissioners. Timothy Shaw, Preservation Staff. 503 Fulton Street is an individual landmark. So the historic photos here.
What are you gonna do with that?
Located on Fulton Street between Duffield and Bridge Streets in downtown Brooklyn. The application is for the construction of a one-story
It's
rooftop
not
addition
landmark, but
and
then maybe
new
we can come
elevator
back
and
later.
stair
We,
bulkheads.
you.
And also for the installation of a new
Yeah.
glass marquee at the Duffield Street residential entrance, along with new sconce lighting at the, this residential entrance and the service entrance along Duffield Street. Bill Herrera, the architect, will present.
Okay, this is with an extension of an existing 7th floor. Essentially, we are bringing the built-up roof down about 5 to 7 feet to match the level of the existing 7th floor and extending it along Duffield Street. We chose to use a sort of commercial language on this extension so that it differentiates itself from the turn of the last century base. And the bulkheads that we are extending are, they're existing bulkhead locations that we are extending to meet that level. And we are extending one elevator bulkhead to access the roof for the accessible area we're required to have on that roof. We are restoring the existing skylight for, sorry about that. So you can see that we're cutting through, we are restoring the existing skylight that was built with the building originally and creating double height spaces that utilize what was there before. We have a couple minor revisions on Fulton Street for as-built conditions, sorry, and a couple of minor revisions as well on the storefront of Duffield because we have that mezzanine that's being restored there as well. The canopy is minimal and is designed to reflect the restored skyline. And we did find in the historic photos evidence that there were canopies on Duffield Street, but not in particular on this building, but there were canopies. This is, as you can see it in elevation, the railing is minimal, and we hope that it just is almost sort of fades away. Much of what is built up on the roof you cannot see from Duffield Street. This is the skylight, the existing skylight, sorry, existing skylight that we're restoring. This is an original, from the original catalog for the building of that atrium space that we are recapturing. This is the entry. We've got some discrete lighting for both service and residential entry. All of the bulkheads, including the existing bulkheads that are there, will be either new bulkhead extensions will be stucco, painted gray, Puritan gray HC 164, are now tar paper. We will also paint those gray. Go back to the visibility studies. Here, we're looking from Flatbush Avenue. I think it's pretty much, the one on the left is with the scaffolding. The one on the right shows our Photoshop rendering. I know it's very hard to see. There's a scaffolding about here, and here there is
It's like
Photoshop,
a
a
gray
gray.
bulb there. You see,
Is that from Willoughby?
That's actually from
it's from Fulton and Flatbush.
Fulton and Flatbush.
Oh,
Here, this is from Fulton Street. This is the existing bulkhead that is extended. This is how it looks from here.
Just,
and what's, can you just, I don't
just to
see it.
show, can I just show, sorry to interrupt,
Sorry.
this line, it's gray here, I think you maybe see it better in your packet, that's the 7th floor extension, these are the bulkheads. That's the existing bulkhead that's being just repainted, and then this, and so this view is from Fulton and on, and that's probably about the extent of visibility of that rooftop addition. There are some other locations on Flatbush where it may be visible from a distance, but
From a distance, it's visible. When you're on Duffield Street, it's not visible. There, I think you can see a tiny portion sneaking behind there. Here you see a very, very small piece. I think from here you can barely see it. Here, it just blends into the, into the background.
Further questions? Anyone?
Yeah,
Yes.
just what efforts did you make to minimize the size of the bulkheads? If you
Well-
could address that.
We worked with our elevator consultant to bring it down. It was originally about 10 feet higher than we now show it. We worked with him to get all the machinery and overrun that we could. And we were originally going to refurbish what we had. These will be new elevators and allow us to bring that bulkhead down about 10 feet.
So currently, the bulkhead is about how high off the roof?
I think it's about 21 feet.
And as far as the position of the bulkhead, just describe why you think it's best positioned to be less visible.
It's at the existing bulkhead location. There's no other better place for it to be. It's extending the existing bulkhead about 10 feet or 10 or so feet.
Okay, we'll go to testimony. Thank you. Thank you. Barbara, Zay?
Barbara Zay of the Historic Districts Council. The rooftop additions and bulkheads proposed atop the Offerman building should not be visible from the street. From the roofscape drawings, HDC was not able to determine the actual depth of the addition setback, making it impossible to properly evaluate the proposed addition's visibility. That said, the proposed bulkheads flanking the addition are enormous and will be the most visible component of the application. Therefore, we ask that the bulkheads be reduced. In this bustling pedestrian zone, it would be a shame to mar the view of a historic neighborhood anchor in favor of serving a few of the building's residents. HDC also asks that a material other than gray stucco, such as masonry, be employed on the bulkheads to complement the handsome materiality of this individual landmark. Thank you.
Okay, Christabel Goff?
Krista Belkoff for the Society for the Architecture of the City. The Offerman Building at 8 Stuyvesant Park, briefly the tallest in Brooklyn, occupies an irregularly shaped lot on a trapezoidal block just before Fulton Street widens into Albee Square. The ornate and imposing front is tall enough to mask rooftop additions when viewed from directly across the street. But this is a remarkable building which invites solecism by having 2 primary and 2 secondary facades visible simultaneously, with 2 more secondary facades blocked from view. The street front of the Duffield Street wing is a 180-foot long, complex composition of Romanesque arches, now topped with a later fence. That fence is prominently visible along Fulton Street, almost to Flatbush Avenue. Setback, which I understood to be 15 feet, is setback, what I understand to be 15 feet, is a proposed addition with a floor-to-floor height of 12'6", on top of which is proposed a roof garden with its own fence. It seems likely that garden plantings and activities may be visible. I don't know how the mock-up was done in that respect. But more egregious are 2 gigantic mechanical enclosures, which are mocked up, which would dominate the roofline and stand as a permanent reminder that the 20th century values convenience more than architecture. I don't think it's demonstrated that those mechanicals have to be exactly where they are. This is a huge building. Similarly regrettable is the protrusion of the stock canopy, which breaks the long line of arches that are the beauty of Duffield Street. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The Community Board 2 recommends approval of the committee on a 9-2 vote, and then the Executive Committee, the Land Use Committee, has 9-2. Executive Committee ratified that vote unanimously. Further comment on what's been said? Anything further you want to add? You just go back up to the front.
As far as the visibility, some of those mechanical rooms are existing and have been there since at least the 40s. We have additional mechanical rooms and have sought to make them as low as possible and to also blend in with what's going on behind it so that they fade away. We have no problem changing the material from stucco to a stone material and making modifications that would make it seem more appropriate. We're certainly open to that. The addition is set back 15 feet, and it is set lower than that 12'6" is not above the existing roof. It's already set down about 6 feet, like I said, to match the existing floor level. You really cannot see it from Duffield Street. If you're standing on Duffield Street, you do not see it.
Okay. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to comment quickly on this extraordinary rebirth of downtown Brooklyn. Recalling when my little family and another little family ventured to Duffield Street, taking our life in our hands, it seemed, into the Duffield Theater, which was their movie theater, which was in its last legs. The whole thing was so frightening. They didn't even turn the lights off in the movie house because it was simply too dangerous to watch a movie with lights out. Boy, how things have changed. It's just extraordinary to see this, and it's a really happy day to understand this revival, and you never give up on a neighborhood, ever, ever. This is proof. This is a wonderful individual landmark, a great designation, and I think the adaptive reuse of this building, which is what this is, needs to be somewhat accommodating of the new accoutrements that make it appropriate for residential use. The building has, as was pointed out in the presentation, the building has, for most of its life, at least from the 40s, as it was said, has had accoutrements on the top of the building which are visible. So a few more are being added to make stairs go to the roof and that sort of thing. I think two things. I think this is appropriate as presented if the applicant will work with staff to look at ways, if possible, to reduce the size and even the placement of the most visible of the new bulkheads. And secondarily, not to use stucco, but to use, I wouldn't even say masonry, I would suggest a metal surface, zinc, something like that, that would call attention less to itself up on the roof.
I agree with those comments with one minor shading. I think, first of all, looking at the stairs, they do have these big donuts in them, and I think that they could be compressed to make them a little bit tighter, perhaps, and also that both sets of stairs arise to a door that's set into the property a little bit, which means that they could be partially have sloped roofs, and the staff can work with the applicant to make sure that the heights of the bulkheads that are closest to the street are as low as code allows and sloped if possible. I think that Fred's idea about using metal is a good one, although I think that from the side view, carrying the party wall up in brick, as we have seen done a number of times, I think is, for me, the least obtrusive way to kind of render those rooftop additions in this kind of condition. So I'd say do the metal, but do the outer wall just as a continuation of the brick.
Chris?
Yeah, I think it's such an impressive building. It's a wonderful renaissance. I agree with the metal or brick, to work with the staff to see if the bulkheads can be reduced.
Yeah, I agree with those comments. In general, I think appropriate application, and obviously, if it's possible, I'd like to see some reduction, and certainly the materials to be changed.
Okay, and when we get the quorum, we'll act in that fashion with the direction to the staff to make those, to work with you on those, modifications, and close the hearing now for motion second. Thank you. Okay.
Next is number 5, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, docket number 15-6130, block 145, lot 7, 501, 503 Fulton Street, the Offerman Building, an individual landmark. And this is an application to construct a rooftop addition and bulkheads and install an entrance marquee at the Dewfield Street entrance.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Timothy Shaw, Preservation staff. 503 Fulton Street is an individual landmark located at Fulton between Bridge and Duffield Streets, and the application is for the construction of a one-story rooftop addition with enlarged bulkheads at the roof and the installation of an entrance marquee along the Duffield Street facade, and also for lighting adjacent to that entrance and a service entrance on that facade. The addition, the one-story portion of the addition will be visible. This is the existing proposed elevations. One-story addition will be visible from the east. Seen here. It's gray, and the new bulkheads are quite visible from a number of locations. The consensus of the commissioners was to approve the proposal with the stipulation that the bulkheads be reduced in height and the finish be changed to have a brick where the bulkheads come up from the masonry, and then a metal finish for the remainder of the bulkheads. And the applicants are willing to do those changes.
That is both bulkheads, right?
Yeah, and this, right, there are two large bulkheads here, and they will sloped and,
One is existing that they're recladding.
Yeah.
yeah, this one's existing and they're proposing to repaint.
But they're gonna, so in the end, they'll all be the same height, or two will be one height?
No, I believe that this one will still be larger because it's, it has more, yeah, it has more,
But the recommendation was that the applicants work with the staff on both the materials, the shape, and height of the bulkheads to minimize their visibility, and they agreed with that.
Okay, made good progress, and it's a better application, appropriate. Please.
Matter of a certificate of appropriateness, Borough of Brooklyn, 503 Fulton Street, Offerman Building, individual landmark. And the application is to construct a rooftop addition and bulkheads and install an entrance marquee at the Duffield Street entrance. I recommend approval with modifications, finding that the construction of the rooftop addition, installation of mechanical equipment, and expansion of the stair and elevator bulkheads will not result in the removal of significant historic fabric of the roof, that the expanded elevator bulkhead and rooftop addition will not be visible over the front facade, that the new HVAC acoustical enclosure will only be minimally visible over the front facade, and while the expanded bulkheads and HVAC acoustical enclosures will be highly visible over the east facade, the proposed additions will be seen in the context of other buildings with large rooftop accretions, excuse me, and of large new construction. That the one-story rooftop addition will not be visible from Duffield Street over this design facade and will only be minimally visible from the east and will not overwhelm the facade. That the design of the addition with painted metal, sliding glass doors, and a metal rooftop fence will not detract from the significant architectural features of the Duffield Street facade. That the sconce lighting fixtures will be installed in areas of plain masonry adjacent to the residential entrances on Duffield Street and will be of a modest size and simple style and will not detract from any significant architectural and historic features of the building. And that the new marquee will be of a simple, modern design with rectilinear glass elements supported by steel channels, and that it will not overwhelm or detract from any significant architectural and historic features of the building. However, I find that the new bulkheads will be too visible over the Duffield Street facade, and that the unadorned stucco cladding is not harmonious with the special architectural and historic character of the building. Therefore, the applicant shall work with the staff to reduce the visibility of the bulkheads and in terms of size, shape, and also the cladding, which will be brick at one portion of the bulkhead and then metal at the other.
We'll restudy the materials, given the new shape and size.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the staff will restudy the materials and shape and size to achieve minimal visibility of these bulkheads.
Good. Second, all in favor? Aye, opposed? That's approved.